Welcome. I'm so glad that you joined us here this morning. I wish so much that we could be together as we usually have been for the past 5 of these events, together usually in the Maxwell Auditorium, but really a time of collegiality, camaraderie, lots of socializing. That's not what's happening this year, obviously, but we did want to have this opportunity to get together with you virtually to talk about some of the wonderful things, despite all the challenges that have occurred in this past year and what's to come. And although I can't be with you personally, I am with some folks here today, and I want to thank especially our AU AV team. They know who they are, and they know how critical they are to all the things we've done in the past months. Critical all the time, but it's never been more so to allow us to continue to do what we do in these kind of venues. So thank you, guys, for that. It's always a time that I like to welcome new folks, people who weren't here last year for this kind of an event. There are many of you. I had the privilege yesterday of talking briefly during the new faculty orientation, where many of those folks got together to start a series of activities that will help them really understand what they got themselves into, and also certainly how they can contribute and professionally develop to their fullest. So that was a great opportunity. We have some special folks here that I just note, and they are among many others, actually. But I did want to particularly take note of a couple of these. Dr. Sudia, who really just came into the briar patch in January before all this began. So she really isn't new, but she certainly is still one of our newcomers, though she hit the ground running. We also have some folks who are newer to campus and have already really been such wonderful contributors. Those are Dr. Patrice Jackson. Dr. Julie Heron is a much more recent, just within the last few weeks, contributor and here on campus. And then just barely hit the door is Dr. Pope. I think he's probably in his 3rd day or so, but we are so glad to have you here. And then we have 2 folks that I wanted to note who aren't new to us at all. They are deep into our AU community, but have taken on new roles, and we appreciate that so much. And those are the interim deans for the graduate school and for Pamplin, Drs. Sullivan and Davies. So thank you, guys. And there are others, and so I don't want you to feel like you've been left out because we didn't have you here. We appreciate all the leaders who have taken on these roles. And it would probably be remiss if I didn't do a shout out now to Dr. Zach Kelleher, who will be taking on the interim provost role. There are many great things about that. He will do a wonderful job, and I know you all will support him to the fullest. One of the best things is that now you all won't be asking me all the time, who's going to be the interim? Who's going to be the interim? So that will happen September 1st. Thank you, Zach. We usually have a handout, an actual physical slicky that folks can take away with them. That's the academic profile, a sort of roll-up. I always give the caveat that it will change. These are preliminary numbers, but they are the ones that we have as recently as about 30 minutes ago, because our IR folks and Holly Goodson and Susan Long were doing the very last minute so we could get the most up-to-date numbers here in some of the categories. This is available, and a more final version, as it hardens, will be available under the provost presentations. I won't talk about all of these various things here because we'll talk a little bit more later on in the presentation. But I do want to note here that we stand this morning at 9415 in terms of the total enrollment for fall. Now, that first day isn't officially until Monday the 10th, so it will change. I will predict it will go up. But as we all know, it also will go down because there's some melt along the way. But we are still accepting as well as enrolling students, so there's more to come. We also stand at 1,003 new freshmen. That is not where we were last year, not quite, and we may still get there, but it may bounce around. But we may well not actually be quite where we were in terms of new freshmen. We actually had more than 500 applications over last year's for new freshmen, and we were able to accept that many as well, or nearly that many. However, we don't know what they're going to do. That's the national question in terms of what really will happen with this fall, given all of the circumstances that college-going folks are facing. And now, about this time, 5 years ago, I had the privilege of introducing to you all for the first time, actually, your new president, Dr. Brooks Keel. He'd been on the ground here maybe 15 days at that point. It's now been 5 years. He's entering his 6th. I think we can all say that it's been an amazing 5 years in so many ways. It's been made possible in so many ways because of his leadership. And we would not be the same university without him. He has truly been a man for this time, this season. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce him once again to you, Dr. Brooks Keel.
Well, thank you, Provost Kaufman, and appreciate very much the opportunity to be here. I got to tell you, it is really strange to look out and see an empty room and imagine that is filled with faculty and staff that are, along with me, is celebrating the beginning of our academic year. It's been I've done these a couple times now, and I don't know about you, Gretchen, but it just feels weird, and we know that. But I'm delighted to be here, looking at myself on stage and just about 3 or 4 people out here in the audience. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. Now, I have tried diligently to keep Gretchen Kaufman here as long as we possibly can. And in fact, I was successful to extend her time here beyond her original retirement date, and we're so very fortunate for that and grateful to you for that. But there is no way we're going to be able to replace Gretchen Kaufman, and we know that. But we're going to do our very best to find the provost that will take us into the next iteration of our future, and we're excited about that. But we're especially excited to celebrate some 35 years, I think, Gretchen, of service to the Medical College of Georgia and now to Augusta University. And there will be no way we can ever truly thank you. And unfortunately, we aren't going to be able to celebrate your retirement in the way that we would like to be able to do that, at least not now. The good news is, although Gretchen's retired, she's not going away forever. And we'll be able to bring her back. There will be a time when we can actually shake hands again, I promise you, and I'm so looking forward to that. And believe me, I want to be the first one to shake your hand at that time and tell you how much we appreciate all that you have done and continue to do for our university. Well, let me also say that, and Zach Kelleher is in the audience with me today, and that's one of the few people here. And I appreciate you being here, and thank you for willing to step into the fray and to take us through this period of time while we do a national search for a new provost, to step into the very large shoes that Gretchen has left as she goes about her next chapter of life. And so, Zach, thank you so much for that. And I, along with everyone else, will be standing beside you and behind you as you move things forward. And I've asked Zach not to be just a caretaker. And I know he won't. We got too many decisions to make, too many things to do. We got too much momentum. We want to keep going, even though we're in the midst of most unusual times. So, and I know Zach will do a great job, and I know you all will support him very well for that. My job is pretty easy right now. It's just to say thank you for all that you have done and continue to do, and to say welcome. And let me take just a minute to welcome our new faculty and our new staff, some of which Dr. Coppins already showed you. We are delighted to have you here at Augusta University, and I think you will find, as we have all found, that this is a very special place. It's a special place that puts at the highest priority our patients and our students. That is the only priority, the number one priority that we have here, patients and students. And we're very unique in that aspect of things, because in addition to providing an outstanding educational opportunity, we also have the AU health system right here as an integral part of what makes Augusta University so special. And to provide state-of-the-art care for our patients is also part of that priority for us. And how unique it is and how fortunate we are to be part of that health system, especially in these times. Believe me, to be the only campus in the entire university system of Georgia that has a health system associated with it is indeed puts us in a very unique position. I'm very excited about that. We don't want this to be all about COVID, and I know that, but you know, it's my calculations are right. It's been 156 days since the first COVID-19 case was announced in Georgia, discovered in Georgia. And for some of us, it seems like 156 months. And for some of us, it seems like it was just yesterday. These are very unique times. They're very challenging times. And they're very uncertain times. And we all know that. The only way we're going to get through this is to know also that we're not in this alone. And together we will get through this. Together as a university family, we'll get through this, and together as a state and a system, we'll get through this as well. And I'm excited to be working with you as we move forward. So welcome to our new faculty, but let me also thank our faculty that have been here, not our old faculty, but our faculty that have been here for many, many years and continue to do outstanding work, especially in these times. You are the heart and soul of this university, and the staff that we have here that supports all the work, great work that our faculty do to make sure that that number one priority, our patients and our students, is foremost in our mind and in our actions. It's going to be an exciting fall. We know that. It's going to be a challenging fall. We know that. But we are all committed to giving our students that college experience that they desire and want and deserve. And I know that you'll work hard with me, and I will work hard with you to make sure that we do that. So thank you all so much for what you do. Thank you for the great work that I know we'll be doing over these next several months. And go JAGS!
Thank you so much, President Keel. It has truly been a privilege to serve with you. As we think back, and although I promised that it wouldn't be all about COVID-19 and how it overcame everything else for the last few months, it really is impossible not to think about some of the things that have happened during this time. And then to really reflect also on, despite all those hardships, those stressors, how much we as an institution have accomplished. President Keel spoke a little bit about all that the AU health system has done, how it's stepped up, not only for our local region, but for the state and actually beyond. And we really can't say enough about that, as well as express our thanks to all the healthcare providers here and everywhere who continue to fight that very hard fight. So as we reflect, and the globe here, or the map of the world, really is because as I think about it, for many of us back around the middle of March, the world got a lot smaller. We began to hunker down. We were sheltering in place. I felt like I didn't spend anything but weeks inside the four walls of my tiny little home office. So the world both got smaller, but it also in many ways connected us in a way we never had been before to the entire world, because the interconnectedness of this pandemic, all the other political, social things that were going on as well, have really brought home to me how connected we are as humans on this little blue marble. So with that in mind, what I really want to do today is spend a few minutes in the gratitude phase, really thanking folks for all the contributions we've done, we collectively and certainly individually. And they aren't nearly as numerous here as they are in reality, so there are going to be many things that I won't have touched on here that are well deserving of it. But just to highlight a few of the things that are going on that maybe some of you haven't been as aware because you've been heads down doing your own contributions. First of all, we certainly do make an impact. I think no one that's seeing this stream could have escaped the now iconic image of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. It was wrought by two folks, one of whom is our own alumna, and you'll see her there. She works at CDC, and together with her colleague, they produced this truly, as I said, iconic image. There are others, but this one is probably the one that is most used on webs, on presentations like this, in books, in other places, and we're very proud of that. Also, you'll see the quote that President Keel also reiterated here as to, yes, why not us? It should be we that are contributing in such ways. Many of the things that you know about already, certainly the AU Health Express Care app for COVID-19 virtual screenings sort of set the bar around the area and the state in terms of being able to actually enter virtually into a portal that would then guide you through what needed to happen next and then arrange for that to occur in the at least stressful way possible. At the same time, our scientists stepped up and produced very quickly, developed and brought to creation a very rapid PCR testing. There are other assays certainly that were going around, but this one again became very quickly a standard for the rapidity and the accuracy that it actually derives. We had medical students as well as other students doing all kinds of things, assisting DPH with contact tracing. We are now beginning to get a number of studies. There's so much potential, unfortunately, I suppose you could think, for research around the pandemic and the COVID-19 disease. And so what you see here also depicted are a few of the studies that are now underway in terms of things, and you'll see a lot more of that to come in the coming months, I'm sure. We also had things like fundraisers, both locally and then and broader, to again equip the folks that needed to be doing this on the front lines. I think you're probably aware that our colleagues in the Dental College of Georgia began to produce on a fairly massive scale nasal swabs, because those were some of the most critical elements to being able to roll out testing in a way that it needed to be quickly and effectively. And also, many people, a collaborative effort across several disciplines, got together to start to do the reusable face masks, to actually 3D print them when they were, again, at a very high premium and very scarce. We also adapt. I think all of us have adapted in ways we never believed we would be able to, or certainly didn't imagine having to at any point. We turned very quickly, almost on a dime, within a 2-week period, put more than 3,600 courses totally online. That's unprecedented, certainly, in terms of an instructional effort, and did it well. We'll talk a little bit more about those outcomes in a bit. And we also began to do things in a different way, like this event that now we continue to do. We had our first ever virtual commencement. It wasn't what we wanted, it wasn't what the graduates wanted, but we did think it was important to mark their special time. And I would say, given the constraints and the limitations we had, it was a success. We had more than 400 who actually participated virtually, but it was a live event. And I know that President Keel and I, for all that we were there pretty much alone, one of these things again, with just a couple of the graduates, really felt that spirit, and we're glad that we could be a part of that. We also connect very quickly in that period in which students as well as faculty were going to have to move online and do a very different type of instruction in many ways. We then immediately began to determine what needs students had, because they might not have all the technology necessary for that. Excuse me. So with this, you can see that we're able to secure a number of loaner laptops. We were able to direct them to places where they could find better Wi-Fi signals, perhaps in their areas as they had returned home, and really provide all kinds of resources there. And we continue to do that. We have throughout the summer, and we're positioned to do that for those who need it in the fall as well. Also, JAGS Support. Our students needed ever more support than they did even in the past. What you see here is a roll-up of some of the things that we were able to provide for them. AU has a small emergency fund for students in any case, and that students can apply for those if they find themselves in really acute financial difficulty. They're small awards, but they can be extremely meaningful to them. We also were able, through the CARES Act funding, which resulted for us in a little over $3 million that were specifically to go directly to students. Some of that went as direct grants or awards, and we had more than 5,000 students who qualified for those awards and were awarded back in May. We also established, with a remainder of that amount of fund that still is in purpose today, which would allow for another source for emergency funding, the kind of things that students can apply for when they are really in need. And you can see how that has rolled up, and the students that it has already impacted even thus far. And that need is not going away, I would predict. I mentioned about the turn of the flip of the switch to online education, and many of us didn't know what that was going to lead to in terms of outcomes. We knew that faculty had stepped up and done a yeoman's job in terms of making that occur, and were certainly as intent on student success as you always are, but still didn't know exactly what would happen. We were happy to see that, in fact, as we compared the grade distributions from spring 2020 to the previous year, they really were stable. We didn't really want huge changes up or down. There was a little increase in the ABC distribution, but not significantly, and we think that's a good sign. The follow-on will, of course, be important to see what actually occurred in terms of the learning outcomes, but Good sign that it wasn't a dramatic, upset of the apple cart. Likewise, that's continued on into summer, that distribution, and we actually had more students enrolled this summer than last, even though we were totally online. The other point I would make here is that while we extended the drop date for courses, the withdrawal rate date, because we really felt that some students might, for whatever reason, feel that they just could not continue in that modality for a particular course, but it really resulted in only a 1% increase in the number of withdrawals compared to the year before. So again, not dramatic, and we think that's all very positive signs of how resilient we are. And we take actions. Against the backdrop of the pandemic, life went on and tensions rose, and things that had been long pent up began to emerge in really meaningful ways. There were incidents that caught the national attention, the global attention, and here locally. We began to understand that we had work to do. We still have lots of work to do. We began to listen as various student groups, faculty groups talked to us about what they really are experiencing in our Augusta University community. We have inclusivity, as you all know, as one of our core foundational values. We believe in it, we believe we do it, but we know that that isn't really what every person experiences here. And so we have a call to action based on that so that we will engage in a number of things. There is on a website that I'll show in the next slide a video of that call to action and address to action that President Keel has made that really outlines that as well. It'll include things like a climate study, campus-wide, which is due to begin in October. We are hard at work through the great work of our Chief Diversity Officer, Dr. Tiffany Townsend, and many others to do have the development of a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan, not to be separate from or different apart from our strategic plan, our overall university strategic plan, but really to undergird that and to take further that interwoven priority that we've always noted of inclusion, inclusivity, and campus culture. And we're also going to be rolling out specific training, specific diversity, equity, and inclusion training for all of our various cohorts, faculty, staff, and students. It's a long journey. It's a journey that we're going to have to do cross-checks frequently to find out how we're doing, what the experience is leading to, but we believe that we can do that. This is the newly designed website for the diversity initiatives, and I would urge you to go there because not only is the video I mentioned there, but also you'll see a tabular version of here are the things we are committing to and here's where we are in that process. I say we, and I mean we, not imperially we, it's not the president, it's not anybody in this room right now, it's all of us because we each have a responsibility to this. And thank you for all that I know you will do for that. I don't know about you, but I'm really sick of hearing phrases like, we're in unprecedented times, and these are extraordinary circumstances, and we, have never faced such, unwarranted things before. But just because we're sick of them doesn't mean it's not true. These have been extraordinary circumstances, and there have been many things that we had to adapt to and be resilient from and do things we never thought that we would. We've been able to do that, but we've also remained focused and executing against what was already our extraordinary purpose. This university has a mission and a vision grounded in its values that we will always stay true to. You probably can almost recite the mission by heart. I'm not going to read it for you, and certainly the vision, but I would call your attention to the fact that we continue to execute through our strategic plan our mission every day, and then aspiring to that vision to always be a better, more excellent, top-tier university that's that destination of choice. And we ground those and wrap them in our values. I can't think of a time that the values aren't important. I think most of you who know me know that. I can talk pretty endlessly about our values and what they mean to me. But truly, I can't think of a time that we ever needed to live our values more than we do now. As we face coming challenges, as things still look different and strange, stressors grow, the cracks are beginning to show around the edges on a lot of us. We need to make sure that we approach every situation, particularly with compassion. I think that's so key here, as well as collegiality, as well as inclusivity, of course, with utmost integrity and always aspiring to excellence. We're all leaders. We all have this as a responsibility. And as I mentioned, we do this as we execute against the strategic plan. The strategic priorities you see here, as well as those interwoven priorities that we must achieve in order to actually make good on the four that we list first. We do this by charting many things. First, we do it by working really hard and never taking our eye off the ball, each of us in our own particular places that we contribute. But we also chart these very carefully against key performance indicators. There are many ways that we can measure the various progress that we make in areas, but we also have some key performance indicators that we keep track of in each of these areas. I'm not going to go through all of these here, although we'll talk about some of them that we highlight typically, but I would urge you to go to the website for the strategic plan. If you search for Beyond Boundaries, you'll get to it quickly, and it will have a button for progress report. And there it really tells you over time how we've been performing on these various key performance indicators, as well as giving some vignettes, some text examples of how things work, because not everything is a number. There's more to this than simply looking at that. So if we look back at what I think we would all agree is a remarkable year, first of all, we talk about enrollment growth and charting how we're doing with that. We look at our new freshmen. I mentioned before that this will change in terms of our new freshmen, but we believe that we are still on a very good track. I think the fact that the applications were up so much this year is a great indication that students, parents, non-traditional applicants know Augusta University. And I would say that if they didn't know it before this pandemic around the state, they can't have escaped it now, and knowing what we can and are as an institution. You can see here how the applications have risen since the first fall of consolidation. There'll be a time, and it's probably in the not too distant future, where people will not mark everything from the consolidation date, and people are probably tired of me doing that. But for now, it still is a place that we can start to mark our progress, because it was such a seismic change in both our institutions and all the wonderful things that have happened since it. So you can see how that's grown. Graduate and professional have not grown as much, mainly because dentistry and medicine are so swamped with applications at any rate compared to the number that they actually can take. But nonetheless, there's been growth overall, good progress. In terms of the student success metrics, what you see here are some really impressive but not good enough progress indicators. And so I want to preface it that way, because in some ways you'll say, well, those numbers don't really look all that great. But believe me, it's been hard work to get there. It's been so many people that we've depended on to make this happen with our students. I never want to take away from the student the fact that it's their success. We can enable it, we can foster it, they do it. And so this is really key, of course. What you'll see here is our efforts toward having students progress at the best pace possible so that they can graduate hopefully in 4 years, but in as timely a fashion as possible, with the least debt, with the most opportunities, and but with the best education possible as well for what they want to do. So what you see here are the ways that we have improved that, again, compared to the last fall prior to consolidation, where we stood at 8% of students attempting 15 credit hours in the fall, which is the full load that would get you out in 4 years. And 4% of those were earning it, actually. What you see here is now that we are at 71% and 71%, and 41% actually accomplished it without dropping a course, which is usually what that indicates. Again, not where we want to be, but so much better and on the right track. Also important is the progression. How many freshmen who began in a fall actually by that next fall have earned enough to be a true sophomore? And what you see there is the change that's occurred, again, over time, and we're at 64% there. Finally, we pay a lot of attention, as we should, to retention. There's lots of ways to measure retention, and we also know that the ultimate retention is when we don't retain them anymore and they graduate. That's the goal, obviously. But what we really want as a national metric is used is how many full-time freshmen, first-time full-time freshmen in fall 1 return in fall 2. So that's what this really represents. And what you can see here is we still have work to do. We've not really moved the needle that much. It is better, but it's really not a whole lot, and so there's still going to be work to do. It's not that other institutions have 100%, so don't mistake our numbers, against the others as being terrible, but they're not where they should be, and we have work we can do. 6-year graduation rate is also a very important metric that we chart, and there we've made substantial progress. It was 29% actually of our entering students in 1 year actually had graduated any time up to the 6th year after that. We're at 46% now. It should be quite a bit higher than that, so we continue to work, and there are lots of people diligently working on that, but we've made progress. Likewise, and perhaps more important, more impressive, even though it's a smaller actual number, but by fold is the fact that we now are at 22% of our students have actually graduated in 4 years in sort of regulation time, as compared to 6% previously in that cohort we were measuring as the pre-consolidation era. So more work to do. Student success, as I mentioned, really is multifactorial. It depends on so many different things. We know that it is the student and it is their mindset, it is their will to succeed, but we have the obligation to support them in all the ways that we can, delivering excellent education, instructing in ways that make it accessible to those students and make it possible for them to demonstrate that they actually have gotten the knowledge. But we also need to support them in many other ways. And much of the past years have been devoted to building those, you might say, just kind of bread and butter, basic nuts and bolts things, but they weren't here, or they weren't as robust as they should be at Augusta University during these past years. So huge efforts, huge investments. Really appreciate everybody's commitment to all of these things. We have a laundry list, as you can see there, and that's not all. I know that there are those of you out here going, wait a minute, you don't have, pick something. And so I apologize for that, but basically the fact is we have huge opportunities now to support students, and this involves not just scores, but hundreds of staff, faculty doing good work. So shout out to everyone involved in this. I wanted particularly for this one just to mention two, and how important they are amongst all of this constellation, and that is student health services and student counseling and psychological services. Again, not just because of the stressors that have come in the last 6 months or so, but just as a point in time in general, their mental health and all of the things that good mental health brings has never been more important for students. As you can see here, depression and anxiety are the top reported concerns among our students. And we need to do all we can to help support them in this journey. And to that end, again, lots of resources and lots of effort have been put in for our student counseling and psychological services. We have moved that to a more accessible location. There's more space there, which is very appropriate. We also, in student health services, hired a psychiatrist, a dedicated psychiatrist for the students. You can see there that there was, sadly, no loss of need. Lots and lots of appointments, many unique patients that we're seeing. So we are glad to be able to meet this need better. We wish that need were not as great as it is. And it's important to note that both of these have continued throughout all of our sheltering in place and going online and all that things through virtual visits and counseling sessions. Students need more than that. They need support of a financial manner as well. College is an investment. And education is an investment. I hope that you believe as I do and believe the data from many studies that show that it's a good investment. It is an investment that pays off many-fold over time, but at the moment it's expensive and many students do not have the ability to actually pay for that on their own. And so student financial aid is really key. You can see a roll-up here of some of the things, again, that we track for how that aid is dispersed and in what categories. And also, and really importantly here, the fact that there's still significant unmet need, which means that after all of the financial aid is awarded that can be to a particular student, there's still a gap in what they actually would require. And that while most of these indicators are going in what you call the right direction, and also just because I think it's notable and a good thing, you'll see that while the HOPE recipients have actually gone down compared to last year, part of that is because our Zell recipients, Zell Miller recipients, which is the higher category of merit-based award aid, actually went up. And so this is good in terms of the students that we are getting and their preparedness and ability to get those kind. Still significant debt. Students emerge with a lot of debt, and especially as they go on into graduate or professional. So we're always in need of more scholarships, more general aid. We just can't beat that drum enough. So if they're going to go in debt and they're going to be here a while, we want it to be an important, meaningful education for them. We do need to ensure that we are that destination of choice. And I believe all the work that each of you does every day helps to ensure that. We have wonderful programs. Our academics are really, really, really good. In terms of that choice, just to roll up, we usually show what the top undergraduate majors are as far as the new freshmen selecting them. It's not to say that they're always going to stay where they go, but nonetheless, these are the ones that aren't too different from what we saw last year. These tend to be where more students elect to go. So what you see there, I have to do a shout out for biology and cell and molecular, because I got a message yesterday from the chair of that Department of Biological Sciences, Rich Greiner, who was letting me know that for the 5th year in a row, the exit exam, the national biology test that's given throughout the nation and is used as a senior exit exam, our students were in the 97th percentile as an average compared to any other institution's students. And that's awesome. They've been above the 90th percentile now for 5 years. So kudos to the students, but also thank you to the faculty who deliver the kind of education that will allow them to perform this way. You can see rankings. We like rankings when they're good. We, poo-poo them when they're not, but we always like to show some here. And we do have, of course, nationally ranked programs as well. We do have a focus on health professions programs, and just a bit about that. It's one of the KPIs that we track against our certainly our designation as a health science medical institution of the University System of Georgia. So what you can see here are the number of programs we have under that umbrella, number of students enrolled, and we graduated close to 1,000 health professionals into the public realm, and again, probably not a time ever that they were needed more. We have very selective programs. You can see the enrolled rate compared to the applications in medicine and dentistry. And we're very proud of the continued strength in our early admission programs in nursing, as well as the medical and dental scholars programs, where students are given a conditional acceptance into their professional school as entering freshmen. And they have done remarkably well, those cohorts so far. So very, very strong programs. And we keep growing. We keep having new programs added to our academic portfolio. This is not a willy-nilly approach. It's a very thoughtful approach, very intentional. We are not about just building up programs to say we did. They have to serve a particular purpose. They have to be a good fit for our university as compared to many others. And we are pleased this year to have had 3 that were approved by the Board of Regents, and you can see them here, continuing to build our strength in computer science, in data science, as well as in nonprofit leadership and administration, which is a unique undergraduate degree across the system. So looking forward to all that those graduates will contribute. If we switch gears a bit and talk about our research and scholarship, they're all intertwined, of course. You can't really tease them apart, but nonetheless, again, despite everything, it's been a banner year for our research and scholarship. Every indicator is up. The 159 in sponsored support, That number last year at this time on this chart was 110 and change. The sponsored research, the actual research, not just the sponsored programs, because not all of that 159 is actually research, it was at 85, actually 84.8, I believe. So we have made remarkable progress. That's due to you. That's due to the faculty, to all the things that you're doing. It's due to some wonderful new colleagues that we have who came locked and loaded and have contributed to it, and we see that only growing. It's going to be, I think, a wonderful time for us. You can see the clinical trials, that also is up. Actually, all of these things should have little arrows, but because all of them went up at least to some degree. And we continue to have active contributions from our students. That's really important because they add so much to our intellectual product. And our faculty are so focused on growing that next generation of scholars and researchers. I want to mention just right here, because last year, for those of you who remember that far back, we talked a little bit about the Carnegie classification and the fact that because the census year, the data pool year was FY17, and that happened to be the only year surrounding it that we had graduated less than 20 research doctorates. We had 17 that year. It was a down year. And that was the time we actually had been downgraded from an R2, a Research 2 sector classification, to the doctoral professional programs, which is not a bad thing in terms of being a doctoral professional program. It's not what we are, not only what we are. So I'm happy to tell you that although they only do this periodically, we have been told that the census year, the new data pool year, will be FY20, so it's in our rearview mirror now, and we graduated 42 research doctorates. So that one we ought to be good for. It also relies, at least the threshold for the research Carnegie classifications requires research expenditures of $5 million. That was never in jeopardy. So we certainly expect when it comes out, it'll probably be FY21 or no, it'll probably be calendar year 21 or even 22 because there's always a long lag as they gather the data. But I'm confident that we will again be at least an R2, and then we have to decide what it's going to take to get to be an R1. Wanted to mention also that the institution provides support in many ways. This is a roll-up of the individual intramural grants and the different programs that faculty are engaged in, and it does total to a not insignificant amount, over $800,000. But we also support research and scholarship activity in many other ways, many other with monetary things, through improvements in facilities, through upgrades, startup packages, all kinds of things, because again, we are a research university. We're a comprehensive research university. If we talk a little bit about faculty, just to rack and stack some of those numbers, what you'll see here, and also I should say, as I just motor through all these slides, we will make a PDF version of all this slide deck available to you on the website as well as the live stream, so you will have time to go back and pore over this if I look like I'm just whizzing through things, just to be able to cover a lot of different good points. What you'll see here is that we maintain a very low undergraduate ratio of faculty to students. I think we should all be proud of that, but we have many, many faculty. It's actually up from last year. And for those of you who might care about this, it's important to note that the increase is actually in the academic faculty. We actually have 4 less administrative faculty than we did last year. I'm not sure what happened to them or whatever, but nonetheless, it's not that we are growing lots of administrative faculty. Yeah, we shouldn't be, but it does take leaders as well. But nonetheless, you can see that as well as how it breaks down full-time, part-time, and our race, ethnicity, demographics. If we look at the faculty profile cut a different way, you can see here, and again, you may want to go back to these numbers just to notice more, but we do have a wide swath of the professorial ranks. We continue to be, and I would predict we will continue to be, highly non-tenure track. That is in large part due to the Medical College of Georgia and some of the other professional programs and their clinical faculty that for which their particular efforts really do not lend themselves to a tenure type effort portfolio. Absolutely critical. Couldn't ever do it without them. They don't really aspire to that particular type of track. If you look at our actions this past year, you can see what actions did go through in terms of promotion and tenure. And it was a little bit maybe of an increase year, actually, but that's about what we see many times in terms of our cycles as we go through. And that cycle's already started again. Of course, one of the things that I know is on a lot of people's minds and will become more and more a topic of conversation is what all of this pandemic has done to the trajectory of faculty for their next promotion or their tenure. As many of you are aware, we already extended the tenure and promotion clock for this year for a year. So in other words, anybody that was in the mix now has that opportunity to extend an additional year. There may have to be consideration for other things to happen as well. Brings me to the idea of faculty workload. This is not something that actually I'll be able to tie up with a bow before I leave on the 31st, but I wanted to assure you that it is ongoing. There's been great work by the task force, lots of faculty involved who've done great work really since November in working on establishing a framework in which to consider and act on faculty workload. We heard from many faculty that this was an issue and is understood differently by different faculty and different colleges and different units. And so really trying to get something that then could be put forward, and as an institution we could have a shared understanding, transparency and equity commitment. We would want to promote the alignment of the faculty workload to the specific roles and their responsibilities, and also have that reflected in their evaluations, which is of course key, and strengthen that accountability. We think that will be important, and that will actually enhance our recruitment and, even more importantly, perhaps retention of faculty that we have. So there is a report that I will be reviewing, as I understand it, from Dr. Kathy Browder, who's been helping to lead that initiative, and we will put that into the next time. I think that's something that certainly should be leader-proof. So the fact that it says Provost Task Force, yes, there will still be one. And so I will commit to come back and haunt whoever if they don't actually go through with it. If we think about our staff, oh my gosh, we couldn't do anything without our staff. I think that's also something that's become clear over this past months, if it wasn't already very clear. And so what I see here is really there's so much more we could talk about in terms of the great things that our staff do, but I just wanted to let you know this actually has risen a little bit this year compared to last. You can see there the breakdown of full-time, part-time, and it doesn't really indicate the folks who just go above and beyond in any case, and also the way that we break out as from an ethnicity and race perspective. And we're still a growing institution. We're growing, as I mentioned. We are going to welcome that new class of freshmen. We're excited about it. It won't be quite the same way with our freshman convocation as we've been so proud of, and it really just is, kind of one of the best feel-good events ever. This one will be different, but it'll be good. We are going to have it as a streamed event. It'll be August 9th at 5 p.m. That's the day before the first day of classes. It'll be a time where students can tune in, because it will be virtual, as well as hopefully their parents and friends. And I think they'll get some words of wisdom and get a good feel for how we really are welcoming them to this university. We're growing some more academic programs we have on the docket this year. They're not approved yet, so we can't say they're a done deal, but we are in various stages of development, and one is actually already at the Board of Regents at the University System Office for the Board of Regents to review and approve. And I'm told that should occur perhaps in September. We're hoping it will be on the agenda then, and that's the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Film and Theater, which will be a new and emerging area for us that I think we could have real strength. Also in development, you'll see MS degrees in epidemiology, medical physiology, and in that strengthening march for computers and cyber sciences, a PhD in computer science. We're well positioned for these degrees, so I expect, but I won't promise, that we will have those on our academic portfolio within the coming year. We also continue to grow in our strategic partnerships. So important, because we are a university, but we are a bulwark of the community, and that's a large area, not just the immediate one. And so many corporate partners, federal partners, you've got the alphabet agencies well represented there that we continue to grow with, over 100 partners across all our sectors. Some important ones locally, and one I'm excited about is the Washington Initiative, where we really hope, along with the Lucy Craft Laney Museum of Black History and Payne College, to really celebrate the accomplishments of a couple that we already commemorate with the name of our building, Washington Hall, but also to really explore ways that we can fully celebrate what their contributions were to us and to our community. We've made some investments. We continue to, even in this era of fiscal austerity to some extent, but there have been lots of new things coming on. Some of these are bricks and mortar. Some of them are really obvious bricks and mortar. Others are things that might not be quite as tangible, but are equally critical. So you can see here as a list, really won't talk about so many of those. We continue to try to upgrade our aging facilities. And some of those, I think one marvelous example of that, because it turned out to just be beautiful, a showcase, is the Fine Arts Center renovation. That truly is a place you would want to come and just absorb the beautiful music and all that can be done there. We also do classroom refreshes. We've spent a lot of time upgrading technology with the push to more online and hybrid delivery and all those things that we knew were at least in our short term, and I would say in our longer term. We will likely be a more online university, not a totally one, but we want to actually grow our stable portfolio of online education in the future, and so it's important to be able to do that in that way. You can see some other things in terms of refreshes. Obviously, one of those big ones we're seeing and excited about is the completion of the College of Science and Mathematics building. It is on track. It's on schedule, we're told, and that should be turned over to us on May of 21, and that's like tomorrow almost when you think about it. I mentioned the diversity and climate study that will be going on. We're excited from a research perspective to have, should be online in December, a new 3 Tesla MRI for research purposes. It'll be the first one that's really dedicated for research. That's important. We have in our small cap allocation from the Board of Regents in state dollars, the dollars to put into phase 2 of the Greenblatt Library renovation. That has been long overdue as well, and so that'll be an important improvement and upgrade. And doing a lot of things, including, and let's not forget, our CONAT, our College of Nursing at Athens, and their needs for refreshing and upgrading and expanding their facilities. So that's on the docket as well. So for all of this, if we don't have students coming, we don't have much, right? So we always have to be very intent on attracting, on telling our story in a way that gives students an opportunity, prospective students and their families, an opportunity to decide if this is the institution for them, if in fact we are a good fit, because there's so many choices out there. And to this end, I introduced last year that we had engaged with a firm called Crane to do some listening sessions, to do some deep dives into what we are as an institution and what our student profile writ large is. Understanding it's a broad, diverse spectrum of students, but what really encapsulates the characteristics of students who do come here and stay, and who really picked Augusta University, and how we respond as an institution to that. So some of this is ready to roll out, and I wanted to introduce it to you here in these last few minutes. So some of what they heard, and I think many of you may recall actually engaging with the folks from Crane, because they had lots of listening sessions with students, with faculty, with staff as well, and got a lot of quotes and a lot of transcripts about that. And what they saw as emerging themes were a set of characteristics of students, and then how we as an institution, as Augusta University, respond to those. And so what you see here are students were a full range of diversity in all its various dimensions, not really defined by any one parameter. They're intentional explorers. They see themselves as servant leaders, and they're skill-seeking and future-focused. So with that in mind, the ways that we see Augusta University doing is by providing an enveloping value proposition for those. We do want to embrace and make very comfortable all aspects and dimensions of diversity. And again, as I mentioned, we got work, and we'll continue to do that. We're responsive and evolving as the explorers go into new boundaries. We want to be on that other side so that they meet us there. We are committed to service learning. I think you can see that, and many of you are actively engaged in those opportunities for students. And we pride ourselves on hands-on and real-world experiences for those future-focused students. And it's future-focused in not necessarily what they could do just today and tomorrow, but what they will be prepared to do 10, 15, 20 years from now. So our messaging will be that we are a coherent and cohesive academic and cultural whole. We will recognize and celebrate our various diversities, but we will have consistency and coherency. And we want to have a primary voice for undergraduate outreach and then an auxiliary line that runs through for our graduate and professional applicants and those who are considering us, because those are extremely important and different, not inconsistent, but different in terms of the way that you voice those. I want to make the point that this is a branding sort of thing, but it's not the institutional brand writ large. This is a student recruitment campaign, but it can't be inconsistent with how we see ourselves and how we promote ourselves otherwise. So the Crane women came up with an identity statement for us that you see here that really encapsulates those elements. Augusta University is a state of Georgia designated Center of Health Sciences Excellence and a thriving comprehensive research university offering more than 150 areas of study across 10 colleges for undergraduates, graduates, and professional students. Further, we equip some students to save lives. It equips others to change lives in a multitude of ways. And it empowers all to build better lives. Lives of great meaning, consequence, and fulfillment. To just put it in a nutshell, life-saving, life-changing education at Augusta University. We believe here that we do, in fact, offer education for life. Every one of your contributions is key for that. Every one of you makes this mission, this vision possible for all of us. In my closing moments, in just a second, I'm going to turn it back over to our AV guys so that they can run a video that I hope you will stay for, that really we have been putting out for our prospective students, because I think if you watch it, you will really be proud. You'll see yourself in it, in what you do, and you'll be proud of what we are providing students so that they can make that choice. As was noted earlier, this is very likely the last opportunity I'll have to address you publicly. So I just want to take this opportunity quickly to say how much it's meant to me to be at Augusta University through all its ins and outs and different names for 35 years. I could not have imagined when I came here as an assistant professor in what was then the School of Dentistry that I would be here today and would have experienced all that I have, would have had the opportunities that I've had. I thank all of those who came before me who made that possible, and I appreciate every one of you for the collegiality, the compassion that you showed throughout these years. Thank you so much. Godspeed.
You have been selected for admission to Augusta University because we want you to become a member of our family, the family that we call Jaguar Nation. Augusta University is an academic community where you can live and work and have some fun in a vibrant and thriving city alongside a talented, supportive, and dedicated group of lifesavers and life changers. We work in state-of-the-art classrooms, laboratories, studios, and libraries, but we also have an open door to the wider world where our students frequently and meaningfully connect their experiences on this campus to the real world with a sense of compassion, empathy, and a heart for service. In this time of uncertainty and of change, Jaguar Nation is at its very best, pulling all of our skills to work to change lives and to save lives. As the state of Georgia's designated health sciences university, Augusta University has a special responsibility during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our highly skilled faculty and staff work hard every day to make groundbreaking discoveries and to train the next generation of nurses, doctors, dentists, and therapists who will make our community stronger. We're very proud to say that our researchers and clinical faculty have been on the leading edge of developing effective testing and treatments in this fight. They have truly been lifesavers. But it's not just our science disciplines that have been making us proud. Our programs in art, education, computer and cyber sciences, businesses, the social sciences, and so many others enhance, extend, improve, and enrich lives, each in their own meaningful way. In the past few weeks, our art department and our cyber sciences program have worked to design and to 3D print protective equipment for clinical professionals. And our education program is providing support for families who are now helping their children learn at home. These are indeed life changers. Choosing where you pursue your college degree is a big decision, but know that at Augusta University you'll have countless faculty, staff, and administrators who care deeply about your education and your well-being. I, along with all the other members of JAGS Nation, pursued a career in higher education because we have a passion for making sure that you, our students, are equipped with the knowledge and the skills that will help you follow your passion and make an impact in the world. All of these individuals and so many more make up the Augusta University family. Each of you have your own stories and life experiences that you will bring to enrich our community as you have learned the skills you need to become a lifesaver and a life changer. As you make your decisions, take advantage of our online virtual campus tours and check out our website to see some of the exciting things that happen at Augusta University. Or reach out to us directly. Our Augusta University admissions staff is here for you for now at the appropriate social distance, over the phone or via the web this summer. As president of Augusta University and as a proud alumni myself, I hope you will join us in the fall. I look forward to meeting each of you in person and congratulating you on becoming part of our family, this big, life-changing, life-saving family that we call JAGS Nation. Thank you very much, and go JAGS!